everybody, my name is Ruby525 and welcome back to Planet Zoo. This is episode 4, and last episode we did the okapi habitat that you can see across the way, and today we're going to be working on a multi-species African habitat. So this will cross off every animal from the African area. So we're going to do, I really want to do zebra, ostrich, either rhino or giraffe, and then maybe some gazelle. It kind of just depends on what I can get my hands on. So right here is a list of animals that get along with the zebra, and I really just want the zebra because I love zebra. And I'm going to see what I can find on the marketplace, which I'm always forgetting which button it is. Hopefully there are some though. And it looks like they're all pretty expensive. Now I did learn a little bit of a hack on how to get more leafies. That's what I like to call the little leaf currency. And that is by getting animals that are endangered and breeding them and setting them free. But for now I'm just going to have to settle with the cheapest zebra I can find. I would also really like probably some ostrich. Now the white ostrich is really cool, but they're kind of expensive, but it's almost worth it if I can breed it and get some white ones. Although I'm finding that it's very hard to get white babies out of white parents. Everything just tends to be the normal color. Warthog are also pretty easy to take care of. They're not very temperamental, and there seems to be a lot of them, although once again they're worth a lot of leafies. What I am finding is it's really hard to wait for all your animals to grow up. It seems that they grow really slowly, which is understandable, but sometimes when I just want to donate some of them, I can't because they're too young. So let's get on to the habitat. My goal for this one is for the walkway to go up and over because there's so many animals that I want the people to be able to see them all, and the only way that I can think to do that is for them to walk up and over and be able to actually see the animals from above instead of going through or going around it. There'll be quite a few pathways around it as well, and I don't really know a way to do something that goes through the habitat. I thought about trying to figure out a way where the pathway can go through, but I haven't quite gotten that far yet, and I'm not really that dedicated. So for pathing, I really wanted this path to branch out a little bit because I'm going to put quite a large African themed shop area over here, along with maybe a walk-through habitat. The only thing that was giving me a lot of trouble was the staircase. Stairs can be kind of finicky for me, but I did figure it out, I believe. The other thing, I don't know if you guys can answer this or not. I know Rat, she likes to watch these, and sometimes she answers my questions. So I guess Rat, do the trash cans need to be on the path, or can they be outside the path? Because I'm just having a lot of problems with trash in general, and I put them on both sides. Whichever one is more useful is what I'll do though. So as you can see here, I was trying to figure out a way to loop the path around, but it was quite a severe loop. So I decided to kind of get rid of the other one that I originally had and just connect the path over there. Although I think even now I've changed it again because the animals needed more space than I thought they would because I put so many different species in there, which makes sense. Of course, we had to put our keeper door in and make sure our keepers could get in there, and then we started putting the animals in because I like to have them in there while I'm building the habitat so that I can see what they need. I was also going through all the scorpions that were breeding and all the other animals that were breeding and getting rid of them because they're a really quick and easy way to make money. I'm finally to the point where I'm actually making pretty decent money, so I don't have to worry about it as much with my zoo. But for now, we have to be a little careful. It's also not a completed habitat yet, so I had to go ahead and finish that barrier, which this is where I really made use of the windowed barriers, which we learned about last episode. So I think until the main part of the habitat is done, we will jump into a slight time lapse. So I will talk to you guys when that is finished. So as you just saw, I transferred the okapi shelter over to my African shelter. I modified it a little bit so people in the little shop area over there can look through the window and see our animals. And then I started putting in the enrichment. So generally what I do is I put in the food, the water, and the enrichment first. And even if they don't need a pool of water, I like to give it to them anyway because sometimes the animals like to swim around. And then I move on to the decorative portion. So it's definitely a little harder with multiple species to get all the terrain painting right, but I think I balanced it pretty nicely between all of them. It was kind of hard because, I would do what one needed and then the other one would go down, and then I tried to do a little bit of actual terrain work, but that didn't seem to go over very well either. For this habitat, I did not put very much foliage in the beginning. Later on, I added some, but I don't know if it's quite in this episode. And I also had to move around some of the caiman foliage because it was in this one. It seemed to me that the ostriches didn't really need any, and I actually do expand this habitat later, but I don't know if I have it on video. So I'll show that to you guys in the next episode, because that is when we get our rhinoceros and a few other species. Okay, so this is where we've gotten to so far on the African habitat. I've put the majority of the animals in except for the zebra because I'm short one. But now we're going to start working on the foliage, and as you can see, I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, and it's a little bit more decorated than it was before. However, the more I decorate, the less room there is for the animals to run around and do their thing. So it looks like I'm going to have to expand it quite a bit. I did want to add in gazelle, but unfortunately there were not any I could afford. So I got to expanding the habitat to work around the African area village that I wanted to put in. I had to kind of readjust where I was putting things, and all around I made it a lot bigger, and I also probably will rearrange the pathways for the guests. The pathing tool was being a little finicky, but I didn't have that many problems with it this time, which was actually quite nice. And I made it big enough so that we can get our rhinos in here as well. So we will delete the barrier going between, flatten out the training because it really just doesn't make sense to keep that. It doesn't really match very nicely. And then start putting in some of the other decorations. So I really wanted to do another watering hole, but I don't think I can fit it in there yet. And at this point, I did not know about being able to put in windowed barriers. So I decided to change path types from the horizontal and vertical logs to the stone once we get to the actual African area. The village will go right there in the middle. You see I've kind of carved out a little middle area right here. I want to put a meerkat habitat in. I also moved the rocks around just to create more viewing areas. And I put in more food troughs. And I found a lot of really cool interactive things for the guests. They must have updated it and added some things because I didn't know about some of them. At this point in the game, I'm actually really struggling for money, so I had to start being kind of conscious about what I was spending and when. I put in a few vendors, and you also see that I put in a mini habitat just a couple minutes ago, and I think I put centipedes in there. They grow really quickly, and they enable me to make some money really fast. I also snuck in the vendors, which I already mentioned, but they hopefully will be able to start making me more money because we have a lot of guests, but they're not spending enough of their money on my extra things, and so we're losing money. Especially with taking in so many animals all at once, my food costs have gone up tremendously. I also started an advertising campaign because I was trying to complete one of the missions, which was to have 1,000 guests in your zoo at once. But I hadn't quite gotten there yet at this time. I was having some issues with animals not being fed, like their troughs weren't getting filled and they weren't eating, and I was also having some issues with them being scared. So I put in some extra bedding areas, some extra food areas. I made sure to summon a keeper, and I also made sure to put in the do not disturb signs, do not feed signs, and some extra shelter because they were starting to breed and there was quite a lot of different animals running around. So after fiddling around with the barriers for quite a while, I decided to move on to some of the more technical sides of things. So I'd really been trying to focus on getting together where my power runs out and putting new power sources in. And I was also trying to work on my other pathways for my staff, because I thought maybe having a second entrance for the animals' food would be helpful, but apparently you're only allowed to put one entrance in. And that was when the first rhinoceros decided that the glass was not his friend. Unfortunately, this is where we have to leave it off this week, with my frustration on my animals breaking out. Now, I do have my college classes starting again very soon, so I'm not quite sure what the schedule for these videos are going to be, but I promise this series is not over. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye!